Where you fellas fishing?
Glory Glades.
Fellas, are you familiar with the phrase, no one fishes Glory Glades?
I never heard that.
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Sunday Helmet Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado. Today we're going to be talking about the Double-A Pensacola Blue Wahoos, who play in Pensacola, Florida, of course. Later on in this episode, I will be speaking with Jason Klein of the design firm Brandy Ose. I'll be speaking with Tyler Massey of Hot Spots Charters in Pensacola Beach, Florida. And of course, Dan Simon will be here with one of his Studio Simon Stumpers. Right now, I am so happy to welcome back to the podcast Quint Studer, who is the owner of the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. You remember him from a previous episode on the Beloit Sky Carp. Mr. Studer, I'm glad to have you back. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Mr. Caputo. Nice to have you here.
One of the things about this team is there was a real shuffle of teams that happened when with purchases that you made, the number of cities that were involved. It was, obviously Zebulon in North Carolina, Amarillo, Texas, where the Pensacola Pelicans ended up. The Kinston Indians moved to become the Carolina Mudcats. And then, of course, there was the Mobile Bay Bears, where you had to, all that
And
operation.
there was actually an unnamed team that never did move, but still ended up with some cash. So,
but now there is a team in Pensacola, Florida. It has this beautiful ballpark with an amazing view of the water beyond the outfield. I guess the Gulf of Mexico out there beyond the center field wall. And a well-established brand. The Blue Wahoos now are a fixture in minor league baseball. Where did the name Blue Wahoos come from? How come they're called the Blue Wahoos?
well, thank you. I think when we got into, when you get into naming, and you're an expert way beyond me, and you talk to experts, people have strong opinions on names. And of course, you all want to do a name the name contest to get the people generated. I mean, what was it I just read the other day? Thousands of people show up to see what team's going to be named, and merchandise is such a big thing. But so we did one thing really smart. We hired Brandy Ose, who has some experience in this, which was, the key thing is to know what you don't know. When you're dangerous is when you don't know that. But we did, we did open it up, and people had strong opinions, because we're a Navy town. They thought it had to be the Admirals. It had to be the Admirals.
Yeah.
And because it was affiliated with the Reds, I'd get letters that say, "You're an idiot if you don't know." I name them the Red Snappers. Not realizing at the time that affiliations were only 2 to 4 years. So you don't want to brand it so much with your major league team. And back then, based on a 2 or 4 year agreement, that you might have to change. And so we got all these names. And mullet was a real name that was real controversial, because in Pensacola, the mullet is a fish that, particularly over the years ago, it still is a bottom feeder. People net it. You got to cook it right away. And sometimes people think it's a sort of not the greatest fish, a bottom feeder. So we had that, and I think we picked 5, and it came down to Wahoos was one of them. And then, and I liked it. Wahoo's a fish they catch here. It fights. It's a fierce fish. So I liked all that concept. I'm a turtle. This is so bizarre. If you don't know me, my whole history from a little kid is I've been amazed with turtles. So I have turtles in my office. I actually like the name loggerheads. So loggerheads was in it. So it was loggerheads, mullet, and, these types of things. So then you go to Major League Baseball, for those that don't know this, and back to 10 minor league baseball, whatever it was. And they do a legal analysis. And the legal analysis said, if you name him what's the chance of getting sued? And I think the Wahoos were like an 84% of getting sued. So why? And they said, well, I think it's the University of Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like their unofficial nickname, because their official nickname is the Cavaliers, but they're actually,
it's
the
like
Wahoos.
Auburn's War Eagle, but they're really the Tigers.
Right.
So we said, well, gee, we don't want to get sued. So somebody said, well, let's throw blue in front of it, because, then we could almost act like we're really smart, like Blue Angels, Blue Water, blue. The Wahoo fish has a little blue in it. It
Yeah.
really wasn't that we were that smart. We just needed to not get sued. So that's how blue got in it. And then we had a vote, and the vote was really, really close. Now, we did tell them that the vote is going to be an influencer, but not the final decision. So it was, I don't know, Wahoos and one others were pretty much a coin flip. But we always liked the Wahoos. Brandios liked the Wahoos. We thought we could do a lot with the Blue Wahoos. And so that's how it became the Blue Wahoos. And it was pretty cool, the whole process. You know, when Bubba Watson bought into the team 3 years later, people thought we were so visionary that we called them the Blue Wahoos. So on the thing, it says BW for Bubba Watson, but it was just purely coincidence. You know, sometimes people think you're smart when it's purely just luck.
Well, if you've had enough success in a certain area, I think you get the benefit of the doubt from folks. So certainly you've had some success in this arena. The you mentioned the mullets. That ended up being a nickname that the team went with as an alternate identity. So they did pull that one off the bottom of the ocean and break it out there. So how was that received in Pensacola when they brought that out as an alternate?
What I've learned about a lot of stuff is people don't like it until they like it.
Uh-huh.
And they don't like it till they see it. You know what I mean? I mean, when we built our ballpark, people were horrendous that we would take this beautiful peninsula, which had been toxic soil, by the way, and put this ugly, they thought this ugly looking aluminum thing that we were going to put down by the water.
Yeah.
And then now that it's there, you know, we had 7,300 people vote against the stadium in a referendum.
Wow.
We had 9,000 vote for it. But so I think with the mullet, it was interesting, and we didn't do it right off the bat. But then, of course, you know, Bubba at the time had a bit of a mullet, Bubba Watson back then. And so I don't know, 2-3 years into this, we decided to come up and do the mullets. Now, this was a mullet name that people said was an embarrassing. It was going to be an insult to the community. And we did it, and it's huge. So the uniform has a mullet look on the back of it. And we sell a ton of mullet merchandise. So once people saw it and got, you know, again, sometimes you have to go through the turbulence of getting it done because they don't understand it. They don't see it. And then once they see it and understand it, they go, oh, now I get it.
Mm-hmm. The mullet obviously is a more sort of cartoony, fun, and like you said, the fish himself actually had in the logo. He's got a mullet, but the Blue Wahoos logo is it's got some interesting colors. It's got the rubine red, right, like the sort of bright pink that the team has really bought into. But it's not a wacky logo. It's it's a more sort of serious and it's a strong looking, serious looking fish. And in one of the logos he has, and we'll talk to Jason Klein about this with Brandios. He always comes on and he's very generous with his time to talk about the work that he and Casey do with these brands. But the Mullets logo is a little more sort of cartoony, sort of kid friendly, more sort of fun than the Blue Wahoos, which is a more serious brand. And then to double down on the sort of silly, fun alternate brands, you've got this Crabzilla, and this is one of the rare brands where you see where one of the focuses of the uniform is on the seat of the pants, as it were, with the crab actually appearing on the seat of the pants here. What was the thinking that went into making this sort of pretty outrageous brand, the Crabzilla brand?
Well, that was Jonathan Griffith. Jonathan Griffith, who loves pink. That's why our whole world would be pink. Him and I are, So we had pink foul poles for a while. So anyway, that was Jonathan Griffith, and I'm sure Jason Klein came up with this. I think it was a one and done. Major League Baseball was not overly excited about the uniforms and having the logo on the rear end. In fact, after them telling us this is not a good idea, the next year for April Fools, somebody showed posted online, we're bringing the uniform back, and we immediately got an email from Major League Baseball telling us that no, you're not. And it was ironic. Then they realized, oh darn, I wish I would have waited and realized it was April 1st.
Yeah.
So there's always a fine line, Paul. You want to have fun, but you don't want to hurt the brand. And I'm probably the biggest brand guard with, we have there's a bit of a debate between the creativity and me, who grew up with a certain brand.
Yeah.
And I really love brand. I mean, I grew up in Chicago. I still like the old Sox logo on the black hat, the white angle, and the Cubs. So I think there's always a fine line, and that's why you try things. You don't say we're doing it. You test it. You put it out there. You see how it works, and if it works, you can grow it a bit. If it doesn't work, you pull it back, and you try things and see how it works. And if it does, you got to be able to fail. And if you're worried about failure, you'll never be successful because you won't do stuff.
Well, one of the successes that this franchise has had is that it was the AA winner of the Bob Freitas Award for the best overall franchise among the 30 AA teams out there. What do you have to do to win that award? What are the factors that go into being the best overall franchise in minor league baseball?
I think the thing I like about this award, it's not based on politics or schmooze or who goes to a meeting. Not that any award would ever be based on anything like that. But, it's metrics. It's looking at attendance. And we really are a measurement-rich organization. We just did, I don't know if any other team does this. We have an outside company that does employee engagement surveys. And we do two of them. One, we do in October for our permanent staff. And we do a game day employee engagement survey. So we measure, do our game days feel they're being treated well? We're going to make a change immediately because some of them pointed out something that was a little inconsistent. So I think it's measurement. We measure employee engagement, probably more so than most. We measure fan experience after every game, and we have a net promoter score. We measure conversion. If you look at minor league baseball, about 64% of people that have a ticket show up at a game. Because what happens is a corporate sponsor buys tickets, and sometimes who's supposed to give them out doesn't. The people don't show up. So I think it's measurement. I think it's really was the measurement of our fan. I think the combination of measuring how our employees feel and how our fans feel. And then, of course, we do sponsorship surveys. We do group surveys. And people say, well, can we survey people too much? I'd rather be too much than too little.
Absolutely. All right. The last question I wanted to ask you before I let you get out of here is you mentioned pink earlier, and I think that this is important because it's not unusual now to see pink in professional sports branding, in minor league baseball in particular. You've got the Florence Flamingos, you've got the Dairy Daddies, and I could probably name several more. But I think that the Blue Wahoos were probably the first team that I can think of that really doubled down on the pink and made it central to their brand. I'm curious to know the thinking on a franchise level. What went into, okay, we're going to double down on pink. We're going to make jerseys that are entirely pink, the branding that's going to be a central color.
I get real emotional. My mother-in-law died of breast cancer. So it wasn't about being pink to be cute.
Mm-hmm.
It was be pink to maybe help people live better, live longer. And you could say I have tears in my eyes as we're talking right now. So I think we're always looking at how do you do something that also does good. Yeah. And I think it was our move to talk about things like breast cancer. That's why we had our fall polls pink. Now the umpires we found out after the first year, the umpires weren't overly enthusiastic about our pink. So I think it's really, I think it gets a lot of attention now, and it's fun and it means a lot of stuff. But it was really our signal about let's try to improve the healthcare of people in the world.
Wow. I never knew that connection with pink in the team here. So that's I appreciate you sharing that with me. And it certainly has become more popular, and I think it's something that the Blue Wahoos had a big part in starting. So I appreciate that for sure.
Well, I think one of the key things the Blue Wahoos have done is when we first built this, we were terrified of having a good first 2 years and then not. So I think the thing that we've really done really well is our first year, we were looking about years 3, 4, and 5. So here we started out in 2012, and we drew 300,000 fans, which is we're the second smallest market in AA baseball. We're the second fan attendance in the Southern League, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think we've really focused in on and holding the brand. So I think we've never had less than like 292,000 in this year. And as far as merchandise, it's pretty interesting. We thought we'd have a good year the first year. We did 750,000, and then we thought we'd sort of hit a level of what, 300, 400, 450, which we did. But in the last couple of years, even though we have Blue Wahoo stuff everywhere, we did over $1 million in merchandise last
Wow.
year for a market like ours, where we have no Fortune 1000 companies. We play small ball.
Yeah.
We're playing small ball with sponsorship. We're playing small ball with groups. We're playing small ball with everything. So merchandise for us is really, really important. And I think, again, Brandiose has been such an unbelievable partner in what we've done, and people like the look. And the other last advantage, Paul, we have is really we're not close to a lot of major league teams. We're like 7 hours away from the major league team. We don't have any Division I colleges in our area, so we are the brand. So when I go up to other teams that are close to a major league ballpark, I see a lot of major league jerseys, major league stuff. You come to our ballpark, you're probably going to see 10 people maybe wearing a major league jersey. It's a Blue Wahoo oriented community, and we're really grateful for that.
Well, that is such a great note to end on for sure. It's been fun to see that the success that you all have had. I'm a fan of the brand. I've got several of your helmets out here in the ice cream helmet collection, and I am sorry to say I have not yet been to the ballpark. It's high on my list. You and I, by the way, share an affinity for sea turtles and turtles in general. So if there's another what if night, I hope it is the loggerheads, by the way. So
Yes.
hope to see that. In the meantime, I hope to get to the ballpark and see it in person. Where can people find the Blue Wahoos online, and where can people find you on social media?
Well, I think social media, they should go to LinkedIn is the best place to find me, truly, if it's professional. I have 50 something thousand followers. I have a newsletter I put out every week on leadership, which has 25,000 subscribers. My direct email is Quint, QUINT, at Quint, QUINTSTUDER.com. For the Blue Wahoos, I'm sure they can go www.bluewahoos.com.
All right, Quint, thank you so much. This has been fun.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, everyone. Jason Klein of Brandiose is here. Jason, I am so psyched to get to talk to you again. It's always great to talk about the work Brandiose does in the world of minor league baseball. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited for this one.
The Blue Wahoos are, this is a really fun brand. And this was one where normally I talk to you, first about like the characters or the type. This is one where the color was a big deal. And this pink that you all used, and I believe, the team calls it Rubine Red or Rubine Red.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that is the Pantone name for it. But
That's Pantone.
Yes.
That is
hot pink, if you will.
It is hot pink, right? And this is one of the
Yeah.
first times we really saw this. I mean, this was more than a decade ago. This was 2012 that this brand was unveiled. And we see a lot of pink now. I mean, you've got like the Flamingos, you've got a lot of teams doing sort of like all pink teams. But pink was not really big in sports branding way back when. This was something that was a big part of this brand. What was the thinking from your part, from a design perspective, bringing that hot pink into a sports brand?
I mean, if you've been to Pensacola is an awesome part of Americana. They call themselves it's the Redneck Riviera, and it's, the Deep South goes to sort of here on the Gulf Coast. And it's, kind of has, it rhymes with, the Jersey Shore, kind of has that, vibe, obviously very different, but, if you're going to categorize it, put it in a universe, it's in there. We went to, there's also this sort of like Isthmus Sandbar. I don't know. Like it's like a, sort of beachfront area where they got like neon signs and like, sort of like they have this like, it's like, I think it's a water tower with a beach ball painted on it. And, lots of neon, like, lots of sort of retro stuff. Also, like there's this great place called Rounders we went to, which is like a, famous bar. And they have this, I think they're Long Island iced teas. You can get different versions of them, but it's called diesel fuel.
Nice.
And you get it in this like a plastic mason jar, basically. So you're, and it's, alcohol content's pretty high. So if you're into an adult beverage, if that's your persuasion, it is pretty intense. But yeah, you can get key lime pie there. And just was like, it was like, your feet are in the sand, there's like Adirondack. It was just awesome. And so, people would tell us stories. They'd say, well, like, I was like, well, tell us about culture. And like, well, it's like, one of the great things is there's not always a huge amount of waves. It's pretty white sand, like, sugar sand beaches, calm, clear. And there would be, like this time where you would sort of like go out in boats and you'd have like maybe inner tubes and you'd have, sitting inner tubes, right off off the shore. And if you wanted like a beer, someone would toss a beer into the water and it would float and you'd grab it from your inner tube. And it just had this like, I don't know how to describe it, like carefree vibe to it. And so that was really inspiring for us. So, one of the things that we really like the idea of like, sort of that inner tube story. The neon was like a real, like, neon. There was a lot of different names that we looked at, and one of the things we really liked was Wahoo, because the Wahoo is a fish. It's also the sound of fun. So we thought, wow, that's a great way to approach it. Then trademark attorneys came back and said, hey, you know what? Like the University of Virginia's spirit team is called the Wahoos, and it's not like you can't use it. It's like
Yeah.
So then at the time, trademark laws evolved, but at the time we were like, well, if we put a, blue in front of it, does that change? Yeah, we can get that through. So they became originally going to be the Wahoos. They became the Blue Wahoos, which is, just as good, if not better.
Mhm.
And so we knew we had this fish, and we love this idea of the underdog. So all of the logos, it was like the broken fishing line, the Wahoo is fighting back. There's a Wahoo sort of in an inner tube ready to catch an adult beverage, if you will. There was, what else? Oh, the neon. Like we had this idea of like, what if we pulled a fish out of water like at night, and it was like being lit by one of those like neon beach bar signs. Like how would that water reflect the neon? And if it was like a red neon, it's like, oh, it would be kind of like red neon to go along, sort of glisten in the back. And so that was kind of how the visit and the experience and the story came together was, the neon, the experience. It took off. I mean, people love the pink. Ruby red, whatever we call it, like electric. I think we called it electric red in the press release or whatever. But like it's hot pink, guys. So
and they love it, and the fans love
yeah.
it. You mentioned the broken fishing line, and in the primary identity, you've got a very fierce version of this fish with like the hot pink eyes and the hot pink streak down his back, and and it took me a second to see this when I first saw this logo way back when, that he's got a hook in his mouth. He was caught and just fought his way through, broke the fishing line and fought his way through. There's another an alternate brand, a secondary brand or secondary mark here, where the fish is fighting in a more literal way. He's got like, I call this the Joe Pesci fish here, where he's got the baseball bat and he's looking to club someone in the back of the head with
this
it.
Right. This is the sequel, which is, I broke loose. And now I'm coming back to let you know how I feel about what happened.
The first one, obviously the primary logo can be a more literal representation of a fish that is just swimming after it got away from a hook. But this other one here, where it is anthropomorphic, he's holding a baseball bat in his hand and he's getting ready to club someone in the back of the head.
Right, because that was the sort of narrative, that was the sort of conversation, was this idea of, well, the fish by nature is kind of aggressive, right? So like, it is, when it's fun. How do you not make it too serious, right? Like, how do you not make it too lions, tigers, bears? Because real easily you could say, well, it's like a barracuda. It's like, it's like a teeth and nails mascot, as we call them, right? Which it just doesn't work as well in minor league baseball, the teeth and nails mascot. So we're like, wow, we really, have a teeth and nail mascot. Like, what do we do with that? And we're like, well, what, like, who is the villain? Who is the predator that would make this teeth and nails mascot an underdog? And was like, well, man would be that. Okay. Well, then if the fisherman, whatever, fisher person, so if that's going to be the antagonist to make this the underdog, then how do we show that this teeth and nails character is an underdog? Oh, we're going to show it breaking through from, you can't contain me. You can't control me. You can't, like, I cannot be stopped. And so that's kind of how, that was the sort of psychology behind that concept.
You guys did some fun stuff with sort of type as image, or image as type, I should say. You've got one logo where it's a baseball bat and the fish itself are forming the letter P. The baseball bat's the vertical stroke, and then the fish is swimming on a curve. And then there's another one where it is the fish hook with this broken line that is in the form of the letter P. That's not something that you guys do a ton necessarily, so it was fun to see that in this brand from 2012. What was the thinking in terms of creating those more image as type logos for the team?
Yeah, so if you're a fisherman in that area, like, it's not uncommon to they I don't know how this works because this is not my universe, but like you clip the fish hook to your hat, your baseball hat. And it was like a thing, like, like, and again, this is not my universe, but I thought it was really cool. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, could we do something where the fish hook, like it's sort of like, it's a nod to that concept. And I think it worked out great.
Absolutely. Well, it's a fun brand. It's one that I really enjoy and fun to talk about and feature on the podcast. So as always, Jason, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about your work with the Pensacola Blue Wahoos.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right. And Brandios, I don't always say this. Sometimes I forget this. Brandios can be found at brandios.net and I do that every time. Brandios can be found at brandios.com and at Brandios on all the socials. You guys have the brand synergy there. You got all the Brandioses on all the socials. So go check out the work that they're doing there.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I am so pleased to have on the phone right now Captain Tyler Massey with Hot Spots Charters in Pensacola, Florida, Pensacola Beach, Florida. Tyler, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing super well. I wish I were in Pensacola, Florida, about to go out on a boat, though. That sounds like a great time. Tell me about the work that you do down there with your with the charters.
Yeah, so we're a pretty big charter operation. The business started in 2004, and we've just only expanded from there. We're up to about 12 boats total that we fish out of Pensacola and Pensacola Beach. And we do anything from inshore to offshore fishing. Pretty much anything you can catch out of Pensacola area, we can cover it.
So who are your clients? Who's coming out with you when you're going out on a charter expedition there?
So yeah, we've got I'd say about 85% of our clients are families from out of town, that are vacationing in our area. And then we have some locals but mostly families from out of town is who we cater to the most.
So if I'm visiting with my kids and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing when it comes to fishing, I should look you up and you can take me out and show me what's going on.
100%. That's exactly right.
So when you're fishing in the Gulf there, what are the main fish that you're catching?
So our main targets, typically just because it's the easiest to do on with new fishermen and that kind of stuff, we bottom fish a lot offshore. So it's fishing for vermilion snapper, red snapper, triggerfish, different types of groupers, and that kind of stuff. So that's for the beginner, first timer, that's definitely gonna be the easiest type of fishing. Don't really need any skill set besides turning the handle, reeling them up. So that's the offshore stuff, and then inshore we target redfish, speckled trout, flounder, mangrove snapper, Spanish mackerel, just a big variety of stuff. And it's a little bit easier of a trip if you have smaller kids. It's great. It's we stay in protected waters. Short runs between spots, that kind of stuff. So we got a little bit of everything for anybody.
So I didn't hear you mention in those lists of fish there. This episode, of course, is about the Pensacola Blue Wahoos baseball team. What about wahoo? How prevalent is the wahoo in that part of the world?
So wahoo are one of the favorite fish for local fishermen to target. They are kind of they can be a little bit difficult to catch sometimes. You got to put a little more effort into catching them. But some trips you end up catching them pretty good. But it's just typically catch them trolling. So that's pulling lures or baits through the water. It's more of a chance fishing than the bottom fishing that we typically do. But we do end up getting lucky on some charters and catching a few wahoo throughout the year. But a lot of people do target wahoo in our area.
So why are they targeting them? What makes them attractive as a fish?
They get really big. They get up to the 100-pound range.
Okay.
They taste really good, and it's an incredible fight too. I mean, they're one of the fastest fish that we have in the Gulf, and it's just a very rewarding catch when you do land a nice wahoo.
Have you been to? Are you a baseball fan? Have you been to a Pensacola Blue Wahoos game?
Yeah, I've been to a lot of the baseball games.
Oh, that's awesome. What do we think? What do you think about this logo? Does it represent like what the spirit of the fish and what a fish actually looks like?
Yeah, I think so. It's it's got the shape there and some of the colors and stuff. There's a little bit of stuff added to it, but yeah, I mean you could see a wahoo and definitely put the two together that they're the same thing.
All right. How would you describe like the characteristics of the wahoo, like in terms of like strong, fast? I mean, you said it got up to 100 pounds. What how would you compare it to like other fish in terms of that sort of thing?
Yeah, so they're super predator fish. Like they can eat a bigger bait. They eat little tunas. They eat mahis. They're like almost the top of the food chain when it comes to them. But they're a very fast fish. They're sleek, and they have a lot of fight in them too.
Sounds like a pretty good choice for a baseball mascot. Then it sounds like kind of a badass fish.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
In terms of the work that you do, like if you're suppose I show up, I live in Colorado, I'm not doing a lot of fishing, I don't really know my way around the fishing equipment that well. If I show up, what would I have to do to if I caught one of these, if I had one on the hook, like what kind of fight do I have on my hands if I'm trying to reel one in, or do I just need to hand it off to you?
No, you're definitely going to catch it yourself. No, it's when any type of bigger fish, especially one that pulls a lot of line, it's people end up fighting the rod and fighting the tackle more than they fight the fish. So it's I always tell people to slow down, just nice and easy, get a couple cranks at a time, and just focus on keeping tension on that fish. It's not like catching a wahoo's not like where you see people tug of warring with these groupers and stuff, and you have to get them up off the bottom. They're not going to break you off in any kind of structure. They're going to run away from the boat, and you're going to reel them back to the boat. So it's just be patient and take it easy, nice and smooth, and just keep tension on that fish.
The Blue Wahoos baseball team, right? Like the premise, the reason they chose that branding was to pay tribute to the fishing industry, the sport fishing industry in Florida. How important is that industry to that area of the country?
Fishing, it definitely plays a big role in our local, just the community in general. I'd say that we have a huge recreational fishing, group of people here, and it's, I'd say it's, at least, 60-70% of the people here do some sort of fishing activity, and a lot of people spend a lot of time doing it. And also, our tourism thing. We have a lot of people that come in and out of town to go fishing every year. And it's definitely and Pensacola's got a deep history of commercial fishing too. One of the first commercial fishing ports in the Gulf Coast, and the first commercial the Atlantic red snapper fishery was in Pensacola. So Pensacola and fishing definitely go way back.
All right, Tyler. Last question for you. If you had to think of like the Blue Wahoo, second to last question, the penultimate question. Is there such a thing as the Blue Wahoo, or is that just for the baseball team? Like, is that an actual kind of wahoo?
Nope, the color is just added for probably for rhyme. It rhymes pretty good and it sounds good.
Yeah.
But just wahoo is just a wahoo. There's no other species of wahoos or any different kinds.
And then so we've talked about like the physical qualities of the fish and the speed and all that sort of thing. If you were to think of the Blue Wahoo or the wahoo as a baseball player, what kind of baseball player do you think they'd be? What position would you put a Blue Wahoo on a baseball team?
Probably be a shortstop.
There you go. Yeah. Got to be nimble. Got to be quick. I like it. Captain Tyler Massey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Where can people find Hotspots Charters if they're coming to Pensacola?
Yeah, so we've got a good website, hotspotscharters.com. We're also on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff at Hotspots Charters. And just a quick Google search is pretty easy to find us, and we've got a office guy who answers the phone every day of the week. So yeah, just give us a call and we can get you set up.
Awesome. Tyler, thanks so much for taking a couple minutes to talk to me. Good luck today. Hope you get a big haul today, and hope everyone looks you up when they head to Pensacola to catch a ball game and go catch some fish.
Perfect, man. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Take care.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It is time for my favorite segment, your favorite segment, Studio Simon Stumpers, where designer extraordinaire Daniel Simon of Studio Simon, based in Louisville, Kentucky, brings us a trivia question related to the subject matter at hand on each particular episode. Dan, good morning. How are you?
Paul, I am fantastic. I'm always fantastic
It's true.
when I get on Zoom with you to do our Studio Simon Stumper segments. Today, I'm especially fantastic because I just received a text from Jersey Mike's informing me that on all sub purchases today, I can earn double Shore points. That's their frequent eater program, their Shore points. I love me some Jersey Mike's. Have you ever had Jersey Mike's? Not a sponsor yet,
Not yet.
but maybe we've got some the Jersey Shore bigwigs listening to this podcast, and please know that I love me some Jersey Mike's. Them's good eats. Have you ever had Jersey Mike's, Paul?
I have had Jersey Mike's before. I for some reason, I'm associating them with a trip to Washington, D.C. that I took. I think there was one just like right near a conference that I was attending. I prefer the term hoagie to sub, but still the elongated sandwich was delicious that they served. Certainly far superior to like Jimmy John's or Subway or anything like that. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, you have regional differences with regard to what certain things are called. In this case, subs. You've got subs, you've got hoagies, you've got grinders, etc.
I have strong opinions about what all of those things are.
Okay, maybe we can do a whole episode on that.
Weird regionalisms.
But speaking of good eats,
yeah.
are you a sushi fan?
Well, Dan, as you know from a recent episode of this podcast, I am just back from 10 days in Japan, where sushi was pretty much literally every other meal. If it wasn't ramen, it was sushi, and including on several occasions, in fact, for breakfast. So I am a huge fan of sushi, and just got to enjoy some of the best sushi in the world in Japan. Okay,
well, isn't that the perfect segue then into today's Studio Simon Stumper?
All right, we're doing it.
Wahoo, which is a game fish, them's good eats as well. With a mild, sweet flavor.
Yeah.
And so our Studio Simon Stumper today asks, if you were to order Wahoo at a sushi restaurant, what would you ask for? Other than Wahoo, if you would ask for it in the native tongue, would it be A, Toro, B, Ono, or C, Uni?
And so this is if I'm ordering Wahoo in Japanese?
Yes. Let's just say in non-English, because I'll explain why I can't be definitive in this answer when we get to the answer, but in non-English.
Toro, Ono, or Uni. I don't have any real way of sussing this. I'm just hoping something was going to pop into my head here, but because I'm kind of floundering here, Dan.
Floundering?
That's what I said. You heard me. I'm going to say, oh no.
Well, that's usually what you say when you get something wrong. In today's case, you got it right.
The whole world has been flipped on its head here. How about that?
Yeah. Now, when you said you couldn't suss this, I was hoping if you are if not a regular sushi eater, somebody who enjoys sushi and has been to sushi restaurants, I have seen on the menus, they will oftentimes have the non-English name, and then in parentheses will have the English translation, if you will. For instance, the other, if you saw Toro on one of the other choices here, Toro on a sushi menu, in parens it would say fatty tuna.
Okay.
And if you saw uni in parens, it would say sea urchin.
Oh.
Now in parens, what you might see for ono is wahoo, or more likely you might see mackerel, because a wahoo is a type of mackerel. With regard to whether this word was Japanese, ono is a Hawaiian word for basically for delicious.
I see. Oh.
But keep in mind, Hawaii is, an island nation where you have, I guess there's some connection to Japanese people.
I don't think officially, but certainly being close to Japan, as Hawaii is, relatively speaking, in the context of the Pacific Ocean, I think you get a lot of visitors from Japan. I don't know that there is any sort of formal relationship between Hawaii and Japan.
Okay, well, pardon my ignorance there, then maybe I should have looked into that before talking about it here in the podcast. But anyway, so for whatever it's worth, please know that Wahoo is a great source of healthy, extra lean protein, and it's low in saturated fat and sodium.
And it's also delicious. Let me say, this is one area where Ranger Amy and I disagreed on the Japan trip. Was when we were having sushi, she didn't really prefer the mackerel based sushi. So, whereas I thought it was fine. Dan, I did a quick Google search, and what it says on Google here is that the Japanese in Hawaii are the second largest ethnic group in Hawaii. So,
okay, then I don't feel as ignorant as I did when I was saying that. I felt like there was some connection. However, the word ono, and I can't speak for uni or Toro, but the word ono is, again, looking these things up on the internet, is described as a Hawaiian word for delicious, as you have described. You felt it was when you ate it right there in Japan.
We went to the Tsukiji Fish Market, which is the place where the boats come in overnight, and they pull these 2-ton tuna off the boats and auction them off, and then the place is just surrounded with sushi restaurants that are serving up the fish that came in off the ocean that day. Right. And it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, you really gotta like that. I love sushi, period, but I don't think I've ever had it fresh off the boat,
Yeah,
and,
right.
But still, hopefully, whatever they do to get it to places that are not near the water, putting it on ice, whatever, but getting it fresh off the boat. Did it taste different than? Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because we were in Japan and everything tastes different in Japan, or if it was because it was that fresh. I mean, most of the sushi that I eat is in Colorado, which is famously not near the ocean. And, and I still enjoy it. And so they still find ways to keep it fresh. The other thing is, when we were in Japan, most of the sushi that you would get, very little of it was in rolls, the way, that we traditionally see it here in the States. Like, you've got rolls and then you've got the sashimi. Most of the sushi that you would get in Japan was very simple. There wasn't like these complicated rolls with like fried stuff and, 4 different things and cream cheese and then like, all the, the different wrappings on the outside. It was like a little bed of rice and a slab of raw fish. And then you had like soy sauce and wasabi. And it was just so fresh and delicious that, there was more sashimi than it was sushi when we were in Japan.
Wow. My wife and I have talked about, we need to go to Japan, and I've got a cousin who teaches, my cousin Dina. Hello, Dina. She's Japanese studies. I think she's the head of the Japanese studies department at Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania. I don't know how far that was from where you grew up, but anyway, and we were talked about, if we need to go and we need to bring her with us so that she can show us all the inside stuff. Like apparently you had your friend there who was, I'm sure, taking you to all these places that you may not have known to go to yourself.
especially when we were in the Mount Fuji area, which is where he runs his Eco Lodge, basically, my friend Masa Shintani. Huge fan of the Hanshin Tigers, who at the time of this recording are deep in the final throes of a pennant chase, trying to chase down the Yomiuri Giants and trying to hold off the Hiroshima Carp for the Central League title. And then, of course, they have a whole playoff system, which I learned all about. Their playoff system it sounds like a ton of fun, actually. But yeah, for about half of our trip, we were with my friend Masa and his 19-year-old daughter, Ina, who was just a delight. And they showed us all around. They, for the 2 days in Osaka, when we went to the Hanshin Tigers games, we went to all of their favorite places, related to the ballpark and the ball games. But then when we were in the Mount Fuji area, we were in Masa's little hometown there, right at the base of the mountain, and basically living like locals. It was incredible. We went like 3 days without seeing any other Westerners. It was pretty great, actually. And so we did have a local guide who was really, really generous with his time and his energy with us, for sure.
Wow, really does sound incredible. I'm glad you had that experience. That's so cool.
Well, Dan, I am grateful to you for all of the Studio Simon Stumpers that you have brought. One of these days, we got to go look at the number here, because we're probably approaching 100 of these. I would think we need to go look and see what our numbers are. But every week, you're the Cal Ripken, you're the Iron Man of Studio Simon Stumpers. Week after week after week, we can count on you to bring us entertaining and fascinating trivia. Dan, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
I hope you have an even better week, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right, Dan's on Instagram at @studio_Simon and online at studiosimon.net.